Hello and welcome to the Purple Group's presentation of Back to the Future for the Interpersonal Communication Class film assignment. This project has been completed by myself, Raheem Memon, and my classmates Amber Garza, Jenny Nugyen, and Shujah Ahmad. The movie that we chose for this project is Steven Spielberg's 1985 science fiction and comedy Back to the Future, which is still palpable and appealing to audiences after more than 30 years. Why does it still appeal to audiences? Because it has the fail-safe formula of a young, somewhat rebellious teen who takes down a bully, does well by his family, and gets the girl. Why did the Purple Group choose this particular film to review for this project? Simply because as we reviewed the rubric for this assignment, we couldn't think of a single other theatrical production that had more purpose to the audience, occasion to purpose, and last but not least, no other movie on our radar had more of a tone and comic yet intense mood that it created for its watchers. This film truly encapsulates how the film producers, writers, directors strive to encode a message for their decoders, the audience, the moviegoers. Thus, our group reached a unanimous consensus on Back to the Future. Now please sit back and relax as we take you to the past and then bring you back to the future.
The movie Back to the Future is a renowned science fiction movie produced by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, who is also the writer alongside Neil Canton, as a Steven Spielberg science fiction classic. The movie is about a Californian teenager named Marty McFly who travels back in time 30 years to the 1950s when an experiment by his unconventional scientist friend Doc Brown goes horribly wrong. Traveling through time in a modified DeLorean car, Marty encounters young versions of his parents and must make sure they fall in love, or he will no longer exist. Even more alarmingly, Marty has to return to his own time and save the life of his friend Doc Brown in the limited time that he has. The primary purpose of the movie Back to the Future was to entertain the audience with an interesting and fascinating movie. During the 1980s, when the movie was released, movies such as Star Wars and Star Trek made science fiction into a popular genre and encapsulated many people into watching it. Likewise, this science fiction movie served a similar purpose to those other movies, to captivate an audience and entertain them with an engaging story, which it successfully did, as it was the highest grossing film of 1985. The movie also served the purpose of explaining to the people of the possible effects that time travel can have. When Marty goes back in time, he accidentally alters the past by preventing his parents from meeting, thus putting his own existence in jeopardy. He tries to amend his mistake by getting his parents to meet up again at the dance, but, in doing so, he completely changes the course of history. His dad no longer has confidence issues. Biff ends up becoming their auto valet, his family is successful, and Doc survives getting shot, all because of how Marty changed the past by traveling back in time. From this, it's evident that time travel can have drastic effects on the future. In addition, the movie teaches people to stand up for themselves. George was a shy, cowardly man who let Biff order him to do whatever he pleased. However, in the movie, we saw George transform into a brave, outgoing man once he faced his fears and stood up to Biff by knocking him out. He got rid of his fears and had learned to stand up to bullies and defend himself. Lastly, the movie helped to inspire people to pursue their dreams. George was initially too scared to send his books to get published as he was afraid that he wasn't good enough. He couldn't bring himself to fully follow his dreams of becoming a professional writer until he had gained confidence and Marty had showed up and convinced him to do so. This led to him to send his books to a publisher and become an acclaimed author, writing books for the rest of his life and living the life he wanted to as a kid. He had successfully achieved his dream job and pursued his dream. Similarly, after learning some lessons from going back in time, Marty becomes motivated to further pursue his dreams of becoming a rock star and will hopefully achieve them in the future. These were the main purposes to the audience in this movie, with again the primary purpose being to entertain the audience.
The purpose of this film is to contrast the two time periods 1985 and 1955. The producers have strategically surrounded Marty and the audience with signs to support that argument. For example, in 1985, Hugh Lewis and The Power of Love is playing as a soundtrack in Town Square, whereas in 1955, Vaughn Monroe and his orchestra's Mr. Sandman is playing at the town square. Another example in which the producers compare 1985 versus 1955 is that when the movie starts in 1985, the town appears in a decrepit state. Movie theaters have X-rated movies playing, audio stores are promoting adult content, and there is graffiti on the school facade. The state of the town appears to be in shambles. As Marty travels back in time, the audience notices a stark contrast in the appearance of the neighborhood. Ronald Reagan's famous western, The Battle Queen of Montana, is playing on the movie theater, and the record stores are advertising Walt Disney Studios' production of The Ballad of Davy Crockett. The school building appears pristine, and the town is obviously in much better state in 1955 and has greatly declined in the ensuing 30 years. To further this argument, in 1955, the movie producers show the audience a Texaco full-service gas station, jukeboxes in cafes, glass bottles for soda, men's hair over-gelled, and 5 cents being the cost of coffee.
The tone deals with the feelings and the attitudes, the moods that can be created for the audience. So, what exactly is tone? Tone sets the stage, if you will. It's the spirit of the scene that is being acted out by the characters. It can create a visual by the dialogue that is exchanged, the text, the feelings, that all relates back to tone. So a good example would be if I'm in the kitchen and I have Back to the Future on the television in the background. I'm not actually able to watch the movie, but by listening to the different tones, the different feelings, the attitudes, that creates a visual for me and helps me to understand what the movie is about. It's quite comical to see how Marty refers to a soda that in the 50s, that's all they knew is soda, that he refers to it as Tab in the 80s. Tab was a popular soda in the 80s, as we all know. So when he talks about Tab, these teenagers in the 50s have no idea what he's talking about. Same as when he orders a Pepsi Free. They have no idea, and that's referred to as a diet soda in the 50s. So it's very interesting to see the generation gap, and what means something in one generation doesn't necessarily mean something in the other. And it's funny to see how they respond to that. I really enjoy that comical play back and forth in Back to the Future. Another point that the group and I analyzed while creating this project was how meaning is created. There are several examples of different scenarios throughout the movie that shapes the character's perception of reality. So, for example, Ronald Reagan, the actor, and Dr. Brown was blown away when Marty tells him that Ronald Reagan is the President of the United States. Dr. Brown does not believe him. He cannot wrap his brain around it. He is just dumbfounded because he believes it's the 50s. I mean, Ronald Reagan to him is the actor. Everyone knew of his movies. They knew of him. And there was just no way he could be the president. And I find this funny because it's similar to how I feel like our generation is experiencing the same scenario today with Donald Trump as our president. You know, he was a real estate mogul, a businessman, and, you know, probably no one ever believed that he would run for president of the United States and then actually become president of the United States. So I feel like we're all kind of going through that same scenario in our generation. So that was fun to watch in Back to the Future when you know, he didn't want to believe that. There was no way, and it's kind of, you know, helped us to develop our answer for how meaning is created and what the actor characters' dialogue between each other can help to create that and answer that question.
Doc?
Don't say a word.
Doc!
I don't want to know your name. I don't want to know anything about you.
Listen, Doc.
Quiet.
Doc.
Don't
Doc,
tell me
be quiet.
anything.
Doc,
Quiet.
you gotta help.
Quiet. I'm going to read your thoughts. Let's see now. You come here from a great distance?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't tell me. You want me to buy a subscription to the Saturday Evening Post?
No.
Not a word, not a word, not a word now. Quiet. Donations. You want me to make a donation to the Coast Guard Youth Auxiliary?
Doc. I'm from the future. I came here in a time machine that you invented. Now I need your help to get back to the year 1985.
Do you know what this means? It means that this damn thing doesn't work at all.
Doc, you gotta help me. You were the only one who knows how your time machine works.
Time machine? I haven't invented any time machine.
Okay, all right, I'll prove it to you. Look at my driver's license. Expires 1987. Look at my birthday, for crying out loud. I haven't even been born yet. And look at this picture. It's my brother, my sister, and me. Look at her sweatshirt, Doc. Class of 1984.
Pretty mediocre photographic fakery. They cut off your mother's hair.
I'm telling the truth, Doc. You gotta believe me.
Then tell me, future boy, who's president of the United States in 1985?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan, the actor? Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis? I suppose Jane Wyman is the first lady.
Whoa, wait, Doc!
And Jack Benny is secretary of the Treasury.
Doc, you gotta listen to me.
I got enough practical jokes for one evening. Good night, future boy.
No, wait, Doc. Doc, the bruise in your head. I know how that happened. You told me the whole story. You were standing on your toilet, and you were hanging a clock, and you fell, and you hit your head on the sink. And that's when you came up with the idea for the flux capacitor, which is what makes time travel possible.
In this scene, Marty introduces the first skateboard in the 1950s. This is also the meaning of this scene. Skateboards were a method of transportation during the later half of the 20th century. They consisted of a flat piece of wood with two pairs of wheels attached to it. Although Marty McFly could borrow his father's car on special occasions, he usually traveled to school and Doc's garage by skateboard. When Marty traveled back to 1955, he searched for a way to outrun Biff Tannen and created a homemade skateboard from a young boy's soapbox scooter. Nobody watching the chase had seen a skateboard before, since they would not be sold in stores until the early 1960s. Skateboards would not have been familiar in 1955, although the kids did make a soapbox scooters from roller skates, lumber, and wooden crates. The Roller Derby Skate Company introduced the roller derby skateboard in 1959. The meaning created here is that Chuck Berry is one of the pioneers of rock and roll, with Johnny B. Goode being one of the shiniest fathers in his cap. It is implied here that Marty introduced him to the idea. This albeit done on a comic note, yet creates an identifiable meaning in the film. Where Marty comes from, of course, is the future, and in that scene from Back to the Future, Johnny Be Good is still 3 years away from being released. Yet for the crowd of the students at the 1955 Enchantment Under the Sea dance, in the climax of the movie, Johnny Be Good is the future. It's the new sound that is going to take over America, for example, the Beatles and Stones. It defines decades of popular culture and go mainstream before anyone expects it to. I found it very amusing how the crowd was in complete awe and confusion due to the culture shock Marty had presented to them. Another meaning to this scene was Marty's boost in self-esteem as he played and sang in front of a big crowd. In the future, he lacked self-esteem and began to doubt himself. After his performance, he realized that it was the future.
All right, this is an oldie, but well, it's an oldie where I come from. All right, guys, listen, this is the blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay? I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet. But your kids are gonna love it.
Thank you for watching our interpersonal communication film project on Back to the Future. Hope you enjoyed it. What lesson we take away from this is that the producers, the writer, and the directors of a movie are basically the encoders that encode a message for the audience, the decoders. And what an amazing message that is, perceived by the audience in the exact way that the encoder intended. We also hope that you take away from this movie the fact that one should never give up on their dreams. One should always believe in themselves, and nothing, yes, not even time travel, is impossible. Enjoy the rest of the few days left for summer, and take care.